Years ago, or, something, testimony like that may have been, more detrimental to a witness. But I think that, culturally, there's a lot more understanding about the nuances of withdrawn consent.
Ventura also testified about jealousy and infidelity on both of their parts and said both were addicted to painkillers and that when Combs was in withdrawal, he was more violent. Cassie's attorney.
I don't think there's a legal defense to this case based on his drug use.
Day of court, my goodness. Is Diddy's defense getting to Cassie? How is her demeanor in court today?
To watch someone who is visibly pregnant sort of take deep breaths at times, she's keeping her cool. Honestly, she didn't cry or anything like that. Obviously, early on in the testimony, there were some things that had her in tears. But today, she's been very calm, very measured, especially considering the audio.
Cassie Ventura regarding disturbing allegations involving hidden facilities, substance use, and individuals wearing disguises. Some sections have been modified to comply with content guidelines while preserving the core narrative. The testimony, delivered on day 5, reportedly left the courtroom in shock and may provide crucial insights into one of the most controversial celebrity legal proceedings in recent memory. The allegations suggest troubling activities beneath the surface of a music industry empire. The 5th day of proceedings began with unusual anticipation. Media representatives arrived earlier than customary. The public section was filled beyond normal capacity, and even jury members appeared more attentive. A certain gravity permeated the atmosphere as everyone recognized what was forthcoming.
Hear her voice in court and see how calm and measured she is, and then to hear that side of her. Again, it was in 2014 that this audio clip was something that she recorded, but clearly she's threatening someone who she thinks might release a freak-off video, and she's worried about it.
And the person that she was threatening was one of Diddy's associates.
Correct. Okay.
Cassie entered quietly with security personnel and took her position opposite the defense. Though visibly fatigued, she maintained her composure. The judge reminded all present that proper courtroom behavior would be strictly enforced. Then the questioning commenced. The defense, seemingly adopting a new approach, bypassed standard relationship inquiries and instead asked Cassie to describe the celebrity's Los Angeles residence, its design, configuration, security measures. The questions initially seemed architectural until one particular query halted everything. Miss Ventura, have you ever been beneath the property inside the passageway? A brief silence followed. Murmurs were suppressed. The prosecution objected on grounds of irrelevance and speculation, but the judge permitted the question. Cassie took a deep breath. Yes, she stated. That single word transformed the courtroom atmosphere. For months, speculation had circulated about underground passages, internet discussions, unnamed sources, even media jokes, but no one had verified their existence. And what exactly did you see when you went down there? The defense lawyer pressed. I didn't want to go, Cassie began. He instructed me to follow him. He mentioned having something to show me. He was intoxicated. I was confused but complied. She explained how the entrance wasn't inside the mansion itself, but disguised outside near the swimming area, concealed by vegetation. It resembled a slope, blending with the landscaping, but contained a concealed access point beneath the foliage. What she witnessed next, she claimed, would remain with her permanently. Concrete stairway, metal doors. The temperature dropped as we descended. When we entered, I recognized this wasn't merely a secure room. It was something entirely different. She wouldn't elaborate until prompted, but everyone present sensed they were about to hear something unexpected. Cassandra's voice remained steady as she began describing the interior. With detached clarity, as though she had mentally rehearsed. This moment for years, she continued. The entrance led to an extended corridor with bare walls and fluorescent lighting. A continuous mechanical humming sound was audible. The space didn't feel residential but institutional. She described the walk as disorienting, winding hallways without windows or cellular reception. Himself about proving something. She considered turning back but didn't. His expression conveyed a message. Don't question. After passing through a secured doorway unlocked by a keypad, Cassie said they entered a large chamber-like space. Red illumination, cameras positioned in corners, leather furnishings. There were distinct odors, cleaning products, perspiration, something unidentifiable. The room, she alleged, wasn't designed for relaxation or entertainment. It appeared created for another purpose entirely. Clinical yet disturbing. The atmosphere suggested negative experiences had occurred there. She noted specific details: shelving units containing props, facial coverings, restraints, oils, and specialized clothing. A rack of unworn garments. Reflective surfaces on ceiling and floor. Sound-absorbing materials on walls. None suggested fantasy. She described it as representing control, constructed for dominance over others. The defense questioned further. Had you ever seen anyone else down there? Cassie hesitated. Yes. She described seeing two individuals wearing hairpieces and face coverings. One reclined motionless on seating, another positioned near recording equipment with a mounted camera. They remained silent and largely immobile. He referred to them as performers. We weren't introduced. When asked about her duration there, she replied, "Not long." I made an excuse claiming illness. Upon returning upstairs, she secured the bedroom door. Hours later, the celebrity confronted her, saying, "You witnessed nothing. You repeat nothing. That place exists for me, not you." That was her only visit, but the memory remained vivid. Asked to elaborate on the layout, Cassie provided more unsettling descriptions. Multiple connected rooms existed. One lacked illumination, containing only a central bench and wall restraints. Another featured a full-length mirror and electronic panel beside the bed with unknown purpose. A third contained nothing but seating and electrical equipment. At that point, she requested to leave. The celebrity didn't argue but laughed, telling her she wasn't prepared, that it was too authentic for her. Most disturbing were his words before opening the final door. "This is where I bring those I possess." Cassie described hearing muffled sounds behind one entrance, resembling distorted music before realizing they were voices. She couldn't confirm who was inside and didn't want to know. She departed the underground area trembling that night. Her clothing retained the location's odor for hours afterward. In court, she admitted never telling anyone, not friends or family, because I feared disappearing. That's how it felt. Like revealing anything would make me vanish. Like those individuals in the room. The prosecution asked why she chose now to speak. Because it's not exclusively about me anymore. Because these activities continue. Because if someone else ends up down there and never returns, she didn't finish. The judge called. A brief recess, but nobody moved. What had been shared wasn't merely testimony, but a warning. When court resumed, questioning shifted from the subterranean space to activities in the main residence, equally disturbing. The defense attempted to reframe Cassandra's experiences as consensual by focusing on the term private gatherings. This phrase had appeared in her communications with the celebrity, often in coded language, but now the court would hear its actual meaning. "Can you explain what these gatherings entailed?" the defense asked. Cassie nodded slightly. They were scheduled evenings, always involving intimate activities, sometimes with multiple participants, sometimes recorded. He would assign parts. There were directives. Sometimes substances were mandatory. The jury viewed message exchanges dating back years.
Is that again the case of the defense trying to poke holes in her story?
I think that's where it goes back to how much can we trust this person, because they're entering evidence with phone records and different things to show, well, you were with this person at this time, or you sent that message, but yet you were dating this person. This is about a criminal enterprise, and there are several elements to that don't necessarily speak to if she was in bed with Diddy or if she was FaceTiming her now husband. So I think they're trying to use what they can, again, to discredit her overall.
In one conversation, the celebrity wrote, "Event begins 10 p.m., maintain character until 8 a.m. In another, bring illumination, collect outfits, wear hairpiece." Cassie clarified these weren't isolated incidents, but recurring, happening twice monthly minimum. Some were unplanned. Others organized like business appointments, timed, scheduled, with individuals brought by assistants. She admitted sometimes agreeing, but noted, "Consenting while impaired isn't genuine consent. I was frequently intoxicated. Sometimes I couldn't recall my actions." The prosecution clarified these events, which the celebrity documented as sessions, often occurred in upscale hotels, sometimes private residences. Did any happen in the underground area? The prosecutor inquired. Cassie paused before answering. Yes. She described one event where she was instructed to wear specialized clothing and remain completely silent throughout the evening. I was told consequences would follow breaking character. Attendees included strangers without introductions. I was told to trust him. One message entered into evidence contained a disturbing statement from the celebrity. This time, I demand complete control. No safety word. Cassie testified to feeling disconnected from herself. Afterward, I felt empty, uncertain of my identity. She later deleted recordings and images, not from embarrassment, but fear. Fear that speaking would bring worse consequences. Questioning turned to substances used during these encounters. What substances were commonly present during these events? The prosecution asked. Cassie answered without hesitation. Various pharmaceuticals, synthetic compounds, cannabis, primarily pills. I didn't request them. Sometimes I was unaware what I'd consumed until losing consciousness. She testified substances were often provided directly by the celebrity or his personnel. He claimed it would help me relax, but it caused mental fog, reduced coordination, increased compliance. She recalled awakening on the floor of his Miami property, perspiring with recording equipment still active. I can't explain how I got there or who was present. She told the court she eventually suspected recordings were maintained. He'd tell me, "You belong to me forever now." Initially, I thought it was merely words. Then I realized he was documenting everything for leverage. The defense challenged this assertion, asking if she ever viewed these recordings. Once briefly, footage on his computer. Myself, 2 men. I had no recollection of the incident. She described pleading for deletion. He responded, "I preserve everything for advantage."
We heard of her threatening. I looked over at the jury box because I was wanting to hear their reaction as we're hearing in real time her voice threatening several times to concerned about this freak-off video, and the jurors were shocked. I saw the eyebrows raised, I saw them listening, and I think to hear her voice in court and see how calm and measured she is, and then to hear that side of her. Again, it was in 2014 that this audio clip was something that she recorded, but clearly she's threatening someone who she thinks might release a freak-off video, and she's worried about it.
And the person that she was threatening was one of Diddy's associates.
Correct.
Okay. So you saw the jurors' reactions to that audio tape. What was Diddy's reaction? What was Cassie's own reaction when she heard her audio?
She just kind of looked down. I mean, she wasn't, and it was hard for me. I have a great shot of the jury in terms of where I'm sitting. I can see Sean Combs. I have to sort of raise up to look at Cassie Ventura, but she seems to be very calm. I mean,
Cassie explained how this control extended beyond private spaces. Excessive calling when she left unannounced, threatening professional consequences for non-response. She suspected he instructed associates to prevent her obtaining substances independently, claiming theft. He was isolating me from external connections. I became wholly dependent. She claimed attempting rehabilitation at an exclusive facility, disguised as wellness treatment, but he discovered her whereabouts. He appeared, told staff I was being dramatic. I departed the following day. The courtroom remained silent as she admitted multiple attempts to discontinue substance use independently, but couldn't. Not while he remained in my life. As testimony continued into afternoon, the prosecution opened new inquiry. "Were you the only one?" Cassie shook her head. "No, I wasn't the only woman. Far from it." She testified that during several gatherings, other women were present. Sometimes professionals, sometimes unknown individuals, occasionally celebrities. They arrived via car service, sometimes disguised, sometimes distressed. I avoided questions from fear. She identified a former acquaintance as one witness to behind closed doors activities. She attended my 29th celebration. She observed incidents. She told me it was inappropriate. I ignored her. The court reviewed a published letter this individual wrote years later in a prominent music publication criticizing the celebrity's behavior. She attempted speaking out. She was silenced. The prosecution continued. "Did any staff members witness these occurrences?" "Yes," Cassie confirmed. His assistants coordinated. They knew when women were arriving. They managed aftermath. I'm uncertain how much they understood, but they weren't oblivious. She recalled realizing privacy was illusionary. I once discovered an assistant entering unannounced. He didn't react, simply said, "Apologies, sir." The defense argued this didn't establish criminal intent, but Cassandra's statement resonated. It wasn't about intimacy. It concerned obedience, submission. He needed feeling untouchable. Asked why many remained silent so long, her answer came immediately. Because we believed nobody would accept our word against his celebrity. But now truth emerges, and I'm not alone in readiness to speak. As the courtroom prepared for the next testimony segment, the prosecution addressed the most distressing portion: physical mistreatment. Cassie had described manipulation, underground facilities, and disturbing gatherings. But what followed wasn't symbolic, but tangible: injuries, physical trauma, bodily harm endured silently. "Did Mr. Combs ever physically assault you?" the prosecutor asked. Cassie nodded, looking downward. "Yes, repeatedly." She described early indicators: excessive wrist gripping, pushing during disagreements. Apologies always followed with promises against recurrence, but patterns continued. The court viewed photographs showing a wound above her eyebrow. Cassie confirmed it resulted from returning late after dining alone. He suspected infidelity. "I wasn't unfaithful." She claimed he was inebriated, suspicious, and confrontational. "I was preparing for travel but exhausted. I fell asleep on seating. I awakened to his shouting. Details afterward are fragmented, just pain remaining." She also recalled being struck in her back after he read communications from another man. The prosecution asked, "Do you remember who?" "Another performer," she said. "He believed we were romantically involved." She explained they had briefly dated during relationship separation, but he couldn't accept it, constantly referencing it to justify actions. She explained attempting to distance herself, but he found methods for retribution. He sent messages through trusted individuals, ensuring I felt monitored, ensuring I remembered who maintained control. Asked why she avoided authorities, she responded, "Because I doubted anyone would believe me. His influence exceeded mine." Then she revealed something particularly shocking. "Following one especially violent episode, he forced me overboard in Caribbean waters. Claimed I was burdensome. I swam ashore yet still returned to him." One juror visibly reacted. The judge called brief recess, but impact remained. Cassie had clarified the abuse wasn't figurative or concealed. It was physical, violent, authentic.
The timeline. They're looking at the timeline. They're asking her questions. Well, was it this time or that time? They're also looking at around that same time she was still talking to or dating, as she says, her now husband, Alex Fine. So they're trying to really, in many ways, I think what they're trying to do is question her credibility.
When proceedings resumed, prosecutors carefully guided Cassie toward the final, most notorious event: the hotel incident. This wasn't speculation or online gossip, but the evening that transformed everything. "This occurred before your film premiere, correct?" they asked. "Yes," she replied. "I had anticipated that premiere for years. I was proud of the project. I wanted celebrating, but he had alternate plans." Cassie testified he pressured her into one more gathering. He claimed it would be brief, would reconnect us. She initially refused, but eventually yielded. "I desired peace, avoiding conflict before my significant career moment." Cassie described being transported to the hotel, believing they would be alone. Upon arrival, others already occupied the room: 2 women, 1 male performer, illumination, recording equipment. "I recognized the arrangement. She received medication. He said it would help relaxation. I was already exhausted. I accepted it." She recalled fragments: the performer masked, the celebrity recording with his device. Herself reflected, speaking words she couldn't remember saying. Then nothing. "I regained consciousness hours later, alone, perspiring." Checking my phone, he had messaged, "Your performance was exceptional. Proud of you." I didn't understand his meaning. She never inquired. She prepared herself, cleaned up, and walked the event red carpet hours afterward, smiling. Nobody knew. Nobody saw injuries beneath her formal attire. The prosecution presented communication records from that day. The celebrity asking if she still felt effects, if she wanted repeating the experience after celebrations. Her answer, "I never responded. That night something fundamental changed within her. For the first time, she envisioned existence without him. It wasn't singular incident, but final culmination after years of domination. The following morning, she traveled alone. He didn't pursue her. For the first time in years, she experienced freedom.
So, something else that I thought was interesting is sort of this timeline that the defense laid out. And they showed that Combs and Cassie Ventura had been in contact with each other via text in 2020. This is around the time she had just had her first child. He's congratulating her and saying Frankie's beautiful, so using her daughter's name. And it seemed like they were both sort of having this exchange of sending love and sending light, and I hope your family's well. And one of the last texts Cassie Ventura sent was something to the effect of, "I hope one day we'll have an opportunity to talk soon." The defense said, "And you never got that opportunity, did you?" That was in 2020. Then they built up the case and said, "Oh, by the way, in October of 2023, you moved back home, is that correct?" And she said, "Well, yeah, I moved back with my parents. You guys have a modest home, your family home where you grew up?" And she said, "Yeah, modest home." So they reiterated, "So your mother, your father, your husband, and your 2 children moved back to Connecticut to move to LA?" She talks about, "Yeah, we were transitioning. We wanted to come to the East Coast." Then they said, "Where was your financial income? Where was the money coming from?" "Your husband was a physical trainer." "That's correct." She answers the question, "Yes, he was a physical trainer." They're getting to this idea that money was tight around this time. She moves back home. She's not necessarily feeding into that narrative on the stand. But then they go to that November 2023, a settlement is filed in which she winds up getting $20 million, which we now know. But today we learned that the book that she wanted to offer the rights to Sean Combs for $30 million, she called it The Dark Times.
The final testimony segment was subdued, measured. Not as shocking as underground facilities or violence, but somehow more poignant because it revealed consequences after. Media attention faded. She discussed healing attempts. "Initially, I pretended nothing happened. I told people we simply grew apart." But internally, she remained damaged. She began psychological treatment. Memories surfaced. Forgotten evenings. People encountered, spaces entered. Then came legal action. Filed quickly, settled faster. But for Cassandra, financial compensation wasn't primary. It documented reality, confirmed I wasn't delusional. Events happened. Her legal case opened floodgates. Subsequently, other women came forward. Anonymous. Accounts, new complaints, eventually federal investigation. Authorities searched properties seeking evidence related to trafficking and coercion. Findings remained sealed, but speculation circulated about subterranean structures, documentation, recording devices. Media requested interviews. She declined. "I avoided becoming symbolic. I simply wanted freedom." Yet now she appeared in federal court, detailing everything officially, under sworn statement. Asked what she hoped would result. Her answer came immediately. Accountability, not exclusively for me, but everyone who entered that residence, for every person who disappeared into those passages and never spoke again. Her testimony concluded. The courtroom remained still as the judge dismissed jurors for the day. Recording. Devices weren't permitted inside, but outside world already recognized something momentous had transpired. Cassie Ventura hadn't merely testified. She had exposed a hidden environment, one protected by wealth, fame, and silence. Whatever follows, truth now stands revealed.